Amanda Blake talks about the 6 gay artists she knows who died of AIDS behind closed doors. She was born in Buffalo, New York, on February 20, 1929, as Beverly Louise Neal. She grew up in Claremont, California, after her family moved there from Buffalo. As a child, she had a natural gift for the performing arts. She was in school plays and showed early signs of the talent that would make her famous. After high school, she went to Pomona College for a short time, but soon dropped out to pursue a full-time acting job. She was driven by a strong desire to be independent and a deep love for the craft. Blake worked as a phone operator for the phone company before she became an actress. She later said that the job gave her confidence and taught her how to deal with people from all walks of life. But she always felt most at home on stage and TV. She quickly got parts in a number of 1950s movies in Hollywood thanks to her classic good looks, husky voice, and lively personality. These included Stars in My Crown, 1950, Smuggler's Gold, 1951, and Miss Robin Crusoe, 1954. Amanda Blake became famous for playing Miss Kitty Russell on the famous TV show Gunsmoke. Miss Kitty was the fiery but caring owner of a bar, and Marshal Matt Dillon's love interest. The show launched in 1955 and ran for 20 seasons, making it one of the longest-running TV shows in American history. Blake was in 19 of those seasons, which makes her one of the most well-known and long-lasting female characters in TV history. At a time when women on TV were mostly in supporting or domestic parts, her role as Kitty was a big deal. Blake's Miss Kitty was confident, strong, and independent. She ran her own business and did well in a world ruled by men. But she was also very emotionally intelligent, loyal, and caring, especially toward Matt Dillon and the town's misfits, outsiders, and hurt. Amanda brought nuance and depth to the part, which earned her praise from both fans and reviewers. Blake became friends with some of her co-stars behind the scenes, especially James Arnes and Matt Dillon. Their friendship was warm and strong, and it lasted long after the show finished. Amanda Blake became well known for her part on Gunsmoke and became a role model for many women. Amanda Blake was an actress for a living, but her real love was helping animals. All her life, she was a devoted animal lover who used her fame and money to fight for animal rights and protection. After she retired from Gunsmoke, she became very active in a number of groups that help animals. Blake joined the board of directors of the Performing Animal Welfare Society, PAWS, in the 1970s. PAWS was a new group that worked to treat animals in captivity in a humane way. She cared a lot about the fate of big cats kept as pets and helped pay for the first African wildlife refuge in the U.S. Her work as an advocate wasn't limited to giving money. She personally saved animals, went on speaking tours to support environmental causes, and pushed for changes in the law to make treatment of animals better. She won many awards for her work, including the American Humane Association's Courage Award. The National Wildlife Federation also recognized her, and the Los Angeles Zoo gave her a special award. Amanda Blake's impact on television history will last just as long as her reputation as a humanitarian. Amanda Blake was best known for playing the sassy and stubborn saloon keeper Miss Kitty Russell on the long-running TV show Gunsmoke. Her personal life was just as complicated and full of interesting events as any of the characters she played. Blake was married 5 times over the course of her life. Each marriage was a new part in her journey, full of times of hope, change, and loneliness. In 1952, she got married to Jack Shea for the first time. But the marriage didn't last long. They got a divorce the next year in 1953. While not much was known about Shea, Blake's early connection with her happened before she became famous, most likely when she was still a rising young actress trying to find her place in Hollywood. This short marriage might have been impacted by how demanding her new job was, which was starting to pick up speed in movies and TV shows. Amanda Blake married Don Whitman in 1954, and at first things looked good between the two. The couple seemed to really love each other, and they were married for 2 years before getting a divorce in 1956. During this time in Blake's life, she was also just starting to work on Gunsmoke, which first aired in 1955. It's possible that the stress of starting a new TV show, especially one as groundbreaking and time-consuming as Gunsmoke, contributed to the end of her marriage to Whitman. When they broke up, Blake's career took a big turn. Her role as Miss Kitty on the show quickly became a core and beloved part of it. After her divorce from Whitman, Blake didn't find comfort and security in a relationship. Instead, she found it on the set of Gunsmoke, which would become her most lasting legacy. Blake often went back to the bar set even on days when she wasn't supposed to be there. The set wasn't just a place to work, it became a second home for her. She formed strong emotional bonds with the setting and the other group, members many of whom she thought of as family. The friendship she had with James Aries, Marshall Matt Dillon, Milber Stone, Doc Adams, Dennis Weaver, and Chester Good was real and would last. Blake's connection to the saloon set was more than just a sign of how much she loved her part. It showed that she was finding a place to fit and stability in the fast-paced and often unstable world of show business. After many years, Amanda Blake married Mark Edward Spaeth in 1984, which came as a surprise and was pretty quick. A city councilman. In Austin, Texas, Spaeth was a well-known person in the city. He was also somewhat famous in his own right. People were interested in their marriage because Blake was famous and Spaeth was important in politics. Sadly, their time together was cut short in a terrible way. Spaeth died in 1985, less than a year after they got married, from problems caused by AIDS. It was sad for Blake that he died, but it also brought attention to the growing AIDS problem, which was just starting to be widely understood at the time. At a time when the disease was shrouded in shame and confusion, Blake's connection to Spaeth's death put her in a painful and difficult light. In the years after Spaeth's death, Blake became a quiet but determined supporter of AIDS awareness. This was a cause that became more important to her. People close to her said how seriously the loss affected her, even though she never talked about all the details of their relationship or his illness in public. This event changed her life and made her want to help others in many ways, including animal welfare and health-related issues. Blake's bravery in dealing with her grief over Spaeth's death and the bigger issues it raised during a rough time in the history of public health added another layer to a complex picture of an actor who was already admired for her skill, strength, and honesty. In secret, Amanda Blake names the 6 gay stars she knows who died of AIDS. Amanda Blake was more than just a well-liked actress. She was best known for her long-running part as Miss Kitty on the classic Western TV show Gunsmoke. She also spoke out for animal rights and stood by her LGBTQ friends in a time when the entertainment business was full of silence and shame. During her later years, Blake was open about how the AIDS crisis had devastated the people she knew in Hollywood. In a rare and emotional talk, she once named 6 gay actors she knew personally or professionally who had died of complications from AIDS, often in secret, and without the cause of death being known to the public. Their stories, and the fact that their last days were often shrouded in silence, show both the personal sadness and the fear that ruled society at that time. Most people knew Rock Hudson, the most famous of the 6. He was a Hollywood heartthrob and matinee idol, and his rugged good looks and leading man parts in movies like Giant and Pillow Talk made him famous all over the world. Hudson died of AIDS in 1985 and was the first famous person to die of the disease in public. Although his diagnosis was finally made public, it wasn't until just before he died that it really hit people in Hollywood and across Middle America. Because Hudson was sick, people all over the country had to talk about AIDS and homosexuality, which wasn't really covered in popular media. Amanda Blake worked with Hudson during the same time period and remembered how, despite his fame, he suffered quietly because he couldn't live his truth in public, because society expected straight people to act a certain way. People became more aware of the problem after he died. Blake knew, though, that his private pain was a symbol of the pain of many others who couldn't speak out. Freedom. Liberace was one of the most famous entertainers of the 20th century. He was known for his flashy clothes, show-stopping piano acts, and wild style. However, Liberace never came out as gay in public, even though he had a stage character and rumors about his sexuality were always going around. When he died in 1987, cardiac arrest was first named as the official cause of death. Many people who knew him and people in the press questioned this. Not until much later did it become official that he had died of effects from AIDS. Amanda Blake, who was in the entertainment business when Liberace was a Las Vegas star, felt bad that someone so obviously emotional and lively had to lie about his feelings all the way to the end. She remembers him as a kind and generous performer who had helped many people behind closed doors because he was afraid of what would happen if he lived his life in public. Steven Stucker was a great comic actor who was best known for playing the strange air traffic manager Johnny in the Airplane movies. Steven Stucker's shows were full of a sassy, showy energy that made him unforgettable. Stucker was one of the first actors to tell the world that he had AIDS, which was different from many of his peers. In 1984, that was pretty much the only time in Hollywood that someone would be that honest. Amanda Blake respected his bravery and thought Stucker was one of the few people who was brave when so many others were hiding things. He was very open, but that didn't keep him safe from the illness that killed him in 1986, when he was only 38 years old. Blake often used Stucker's honesty as an example for other people, even though the industry didn't help him enough. In the 1983 movie Scarface, Paul Shenar played the drug lord Alejandro Sosa. He was also an actress who worked on stage and in movies. Shenar was a classically trained actor who brought intelligence and passion to every role. He had a more private life behind the scenes, though, and he never talked about being gay in public. Amanda Blake had met Shenar in a number of social and performing arts settings and remembered him as kind and charming. She thought he earned a lot more praise than he got. He passed away in 1989 from problems caused by AIDS. Even though people in the business world were sad about his death, it wasn't generally reported or linked to AIDS at the time. Blake talked about him with a lot of sadness and said that his death was part of a trend of quiet disappearances in the acting world, of talented people who left without anyone realizing how much they were missed. Matthew Timothy Patrick Murphy. In the early 1980s, Timothy Patrick Murphy was a rising star. He was in soap operas like Search for Tomorrow and had a major part on the nighttime show Dallas. He was young, good-looking, and about to have a big job in Hollywood. Sad to say, though, his life was cut terribly short when he died at age 29 of complications from AIDS. Amanda Blake had met Murphy at charity events and business meetings and remembered how kind and hopeful he was. Because he was young, his death was especially hard for her to accept. Blake was really moved by Murphy's story because it made him think about how AIDS wasn't just killing legends, it was also taking away the future of an age. For his role as Motel the Tailor in Fiddler on the Roof, Leonard Fry is best remembered. He was nominated for an Academy Award for the role. Leonard Fry was a talented character actor who also starred in The Boys in the Band, a groundbreaking movie about gay characters that came out in 1970. Fry added depth and fun to the parts he played. Even though he never came out in public, his work had a lot of LGBTQ topics that spoke to people. She had seen him act on stage and in movies, and Amanda Blake thought that his art was shaped by his experiences as a gay man, even if those experiences had to be kept secret. Fry died at the age of 49 in 1988 from problems caused by AIDS. Blake saw him as a sad example of an artist whose full potential was never fully realized because of the quiet times. Amanda Blake was not just listing sad events when she named these 6 men: Rock Hudson, Liberace, Steven Stucker, Paul Shenar, Timothy Patrick Murphy, and Leonard Fry. She was honoring a generation of gay artists who lived in fear of being found out, whose careers were often stifled or shaped by the need to remain private, and whose deaths were not talked about or were given the wrong meaning in obituaries and tributes. Blake's own death in 1989 from complications linked to AIDS made her thoughts both ironic and moving. Even though she didn't get the sickness the same way, her experience with it helped her understand the pain and loneliness that came with it, especially for those who had to hide who they were on top of everything else. She wrote those words as a quiet way to remember the lives that burned brightly but too short in the shadows of Hollywood. Amanda Blake had a serious health problem. In 1977, that would change the course of her life. Blake was best known for her long-running part as Miss Kitty Russell on the famous TV Western Gunsmoke. Blake was diagnosed with oral cancer. She had been a heavy smoker for a long time, and her high profile and work in the entertainment industry made the disease even scarier. The diagnosis was a terrible wake-up call for Blake and many of her fans who loved how lively she was on TV. She was determined to face her illness head-on, so she had surgery to remove the cancer. She was changed forever by the experience, which made her want to do more to teach others about how dangerous smoking is and how important it is to get help early. After she got better, Blake used her fame and drive to help others, and she became a strong supporter of the American Cancer Society. She went on a lot of trips across the United States to attend many funding events and give speeches. Her attendance at these events helped get more people and media interest, which gave the cause much-needed exposure. Blake was brave enough to talk about her fight with cancer. She shared details of her illness and recovery so that other people could learn from her experience and be inspired. The work she did for the American Cancer Society wasn't just for show. She was very active in their programs to reach out to people, using her name and time to help raise money for research and education projects. The American Cancer Society gave Amanda Blake its annual Courage Award in 1984 in honor of her unwavering dedication and the courage she showed in facing her illness and using her fame to help others. This prestigious award is only given to people who show incredible strength in the face of major illness and use their experiences to bring more attention to and support for causes related to cancer. The award ceremony was watched by people all over the country, and the fact that it was given by President Ronald Reagan at the time made it even more important. Not only did the event represent Blake's personal success, but it also showed how celebrities and public health groups are working together more and more to spread important health messages. Amanda Blake was 60 years old when she tragically died at Mercy General Hospital in Sacramento, California on August 16, 1989. She had been alive for only 60 years. In the beginning, her death was officially blamed on complications from throat cancer, which made sense since she had previously battled oral cancer and smoked. But in a shocking and ultimately historic statement, her doctor, Dr. Lou Nishimura, later said that she had died from complications related to AIDS, specifically hepatitis linked to AIDS. At the time, AIDS was still a very shamed and poorly understood disease, so this news shocked both the public and the entertainment industry. The news not only changed how people thought about her last years, but it also started tough talks about privacy, illness, and how the public sees people. It's still not clear where Amanda Blake got her AIDS, and people have been guessing for years. People who knew Blake well were quick to defend her image, saying she wasn't using drugs or having sexual relations with other people. In the 1980s, there were two popular and often unfair generalizations about AIDS. Many people thought that her fifth husband, Mark Spaeth, a former Austin City Councilman, might have given her the disease. Mark Spaeth died in 1985 from what were thought to be effects from AIDS-related pneumonia. Even though they were married, since it happened not long before Spaeth's illness became clear, it is thought to be the most likely way that the disease got to her. However, because there were no clear answers and AIDS was seen as a social problem at the time, a lot of the talk about Blake's death was still based on guesswork, even though those close to her said she lived an honest and private life.